I haven't felt camaraderie like that since the service. Everybody, like you said, all walks of life are there, and everybody was just happy, smiling.
There's an estimated over 3 million people here today. So despite what the media tells you, boots on ground definitely say something different. There is a sea of nothing but red, white, and blue, and patriots and Trump. And it was amazing to get to see the president talk. We are now walking down the inaugural path to the Capitol building. 3 million plus people. God bless America, patriots.
Somebody come towards swimming upstream, screaming, that some girl just got shot. Once I started getting towards the front, I seen people coming back out. They were obviously sprayed.
Well, did you have the sense that the police were sort of attacking the crowd?
Yeah, of course I did. People were hollering, "What are you doing? We're on your side," as they're spraying people. They knew they were going to get a reaction, that's for sure. All I just seen was somebody wailing on this lady's head, but Roseanne's parents, Roseanne herself, deserves to have the truth brought out, because she was just like us. She was just an American who loved her country. When you have women and seniors and you're seeing them getting sprayed, and yes, people were getting hit with batons, and as much as I want to protect the people and protect the police officers, I guess I just got to come out here and say the way it was.
Well, we have a week behind us right now, a whole week with Donald J. Trump as the president of the United States of America. Has it been a whirlwind or what?
It's been so good. He's been stomping their guts out all over the country, and it's been so much fun to watch. They don't know how to react. Everything's happening so fast.
It's just amazing to actually have a politician that is doing something.
Yeah.
And it's like politicians court the media and try to get on their good side so that they can make them look good in the public, when really all they have to do is just go do good stuff.
And do what they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that Trump has been doing. He's been doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
That's right.
And the media acts shocked. It's like a politician's actually doing what he said he was going to do. This is crazy. It's never been done.
I know it. All the executive orders that came about, and there are people on different sides of executive orders, and when it crosses over into policy making and all those things. But a lot of the executive orders that he has done has really just been rolling back all the horrific things that Joe Biden did on day one of his presidency, or somebody did for Joe Biden on the first day of his presidency.
Yeah, no, he's been just sort of correcting the insanity that we've lived through for the last 4 years. And that's been really gratifying to see.
It has been, and to watch the lefties melt down, and it really empowers people too. They're good. I serve in state politics, and at the Congress level or the U.S. level. When you think about it, there are some really good principled people, right? Then there are these really bad, evil people. And then there's these people in the middle that are just, checking the wind to see which way it's blowing. And it's really empowering when you have somebody at the top that is doing what is right, so everybody just gets in line with it. It's good for the American people. Unfortunately, there are those people in office that are just going to go whichever way the wind is blowing. Thankfully, after 4 years, the wind is blowing our way again. It's at our back, and I think we can make some great progress here.
Yeah, I think he's done more in a week than Joe Biden did in years, really. Yes. And so it's going to be just seeing what he did in North Carolina and in California when he went out there and kind of schooled everybody about emergency powers and how much they could do to help. I mean, it's just great to see a man who's in charge. That's right. Because we haven't had anybody in charge for 4 years. We
haven't, and the travesty of what they did and hiding all of his issues, and then people behind the scenes that are having their way. It's not the American people. It's not through their representatives. It is through whoever it is behind him that has hid all of his cognitive issues, and they have been the ones doing all these nefarious things. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's been good. I've enjoyed watching it and being a part of it. One thing that President Trump did on day one, and it's really what we wanted to talk about today. By the way, it's this Mr. Nick Searcy that's here with us. And we have another good friend of ours, Chris, that is going to be talking in on this issue, specific issue today. But President Trump had made a promise that he was going to address the people that were caught up in and arrested and everything else in regard to January 6, 2021. And to be honest, we didn't know exactly what he was going to do. We thought we knew. And he had not been specifically clear on how he was going to address it, right? I think a lot of people were trying to find out. There were some people close to President Trump. And then J.D. Vance come out on that Sunday, and he made some statements, and people were scratching their head. What is he going to do? And this is what we have been advocating for. And you, long before me, had so much knowledge on this issue, was that there was so much bad and so much corruption that he was just going to have to do a blanket pardon for everybody, right? And you did a couple documentaries, The War on Truth and Capital Punishment, right? And had talked to a lot of these people that have been targeted by our government as a result of what happened on January the 6th. And so we were advocating, there was a lot being said, and then sometime on Monday evening, several hours after he had taken the oath, he goes into the Oval Office and he signs a pardon for basically every single person that had been charged related to January the 6th. And so, Chris, you were one of those guys, and you were actually in jail, in prison at the time that pardon was signed. And it was about maybe 12, 14 hours after the pardon was signed, you actually got released. So I want to ask you some questions, and I know Nick does as well, but can you tell me, what did it feel like when you heard the news that President Trump had signed that pardon, and where were you at whenever that took place?
I was here in Kentucky, Grayson County.
Yeah.
How did I feel? I guess I was pretty shocked because not until that moment did I understand what was going to happen.
Yeah.
The day before the inauguration, while I was signing bills, I was in there with Ed Richmond, and nothing was really clear about what was going to happen. So we were. I don't know.
Was you hopeful?
Yes, I was, but at the same point, me and Ed had to not get our hopes up.
Yeah.
So we were telling ourselves, if we have to do the rest of our time, we have to do the rest of our time.
Yeah.
Because we saw so many supporters out there in the ear of Donald Trump saying, what they were saying. And but what I like about Trump is he does it his own way.
Yeah.
And that's what I respect. And to stand on it and to release us, knowing the situation when a lot of people just want to turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
It makes me really respect Trump even more than I already did. So
exactly. No, that's amazing. I don't think any of us really understand fully what a lot of you guys went through and all that you dealt with. I couldn't imagine sitting there just waiting to see, what is he going to do? Is he going to do a full pardon? Is he going to do a commutation? And then he ended up doing a full pardon, which means that you're free to go and it's over with. So that's awesome.
It really is. I mean, what kind of time were you looking at? What were you sentenced to?
I had 2 years down, but I was sentenced to 50 months.
50 months?
Yes, sir.
And what were the charges? Was it trespassing, or do you remember what exactly the charges were?
Well, I had 9 different charges.
9.
But once we were pushed into a plea deal, they say, when you make the plea deal, you go into court, and they were like, were you coerced into this? Well, of course I was. You were gonna slam me. You know.
Yeah.
But they whittled it down to one charge of 111B, just because they know that they didn't need all 9 charges to get that much time out of me. Really, all they needed was one. The others were just dressing to make it look like they were giving me a deal.
And what is the 111B charge? What is that?
That is assault with a deadly weapon.
Assault with a deadly weapon. What was the deadly weapon?
It was a piece of a flagpole.
A piece of a flagpole.
Yeah, and a phone cord that was falling out of my pocket. As I was grabbing it, that was when things were going on with the Roseanne boiling. And as we were getting sprayed, just out of reaction, did I swing it.
So, if you don't mind, could you just kind of take me back to that day and just tell me why did you go to Washington on January 6th in the first place? I mean, I went there with a friend of mine just because I thought the election had been faulty, and I wanted what was happening in the House of Representatives to go on, because they were challenging the vote, and I just wanted to be there in support.
Exactly.
I mean, why did you go?
Pretty much the same reason that the truth wasn't coming out. Nobody wanted to hear it. We had channels like One American News covering it, and they were trying to do the recount in Arizona, and just that we, like everybody else, I was sitting there watching it, and I went to bed feeling pretty good, seeing Trump on top, just nailing it. And so I was like, wow, it's gonna be a great next 4 years. And then I just woke up and Biden won. And I was like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
And then social media, the way it is, they're right on top of everything. And so I got on and I was watching Steven Crowder and others covering it, and they showed the spike and how that happened, and the mail-in ballots. I think people were already thinking that was going to happen. Everybody understood what was going on with COVID, and everybody understood what was going on with the mask. And so it wasn't really a shock that they did the ballots, but I don't even know the Dominion. I didn't know how many people were going to take that serious, because at that point we were all kooks for even saying such thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they try to demonize you if you raise any concerns,
Right.
So when you got there that day, on the day, what did you do that day?
Oh, well, first of all, I missed the speech, Donald Trump's speech. I don't know what it is about Dunkin' Donuts, but I gotta have my Dunkin' Donuts. And in DC, using the GPS, it has you going every which way. But I went and grabbed my coffee, and I got there, and the speech was ending, and people were leaving. So I just kind of got in with the crowd that was heading to the Capitol, and I just kind of went along with them. I've been to other rallies for Trump. I went to the one in Tulsa. I went to the one in D.C. on December 12th, so about a month earlier. And the whole atmosphere was great at the, maybe not Tulsa so much, but...
it was pretty peaceful and happy was how I remembered it. The walk to the Capitol was pretty... it was fun.
I haven't felt camaraderie like that since the service. Everybody, like you said, all walks of life are there. And everybody was just happy, smiling.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was throwing money. There was a street artist playing drums, and I was throwing money in his bucket, and flags are being marched by, and I was like, "Oh, this is good stuff." And but halfway there, did somebody come towards swimming upstream? Screaming, that some girl just got shot, and I'm like, "Girl got shot? What in the world?" And next thing I know, there was like 5 or 6 Homeland Security cars going with their blue lights. They were traveling real small. They kind of divided us all as they drove down the street, because there were so many people there. We were just in the streets,
Yeah.
There was a lot of us.
Yeah.
And but they didn't stop. They didn't use their speaker or their loudspeaker, to let anybody know what was going on. They just kind of just strolled on through, and so everybody just started double timing after they heard, somebody was shot. Everybody was like, "What's going on?" So we got up there, and I tried to work my way to the front because I wanted to know what was going on. Yeah. And next thing I know, I'm standing near the stairs but they were so steep. All I could really see was the back of somebody's back in front of me. And so the line was moving slowly but surely going up the stairs. And once I started getting towards the front, I seen people coming back out. They were obviously sprayed. Their eyes are running.
And this was the tunnel.
Yes, sir.
You were right in front of the tunnel where Roseanne Boylan and all that happened.
Yes,
Sprayed
sir.
with tear gas or mace or something?
Yes, sir. Bear spray.
Yeah.
Which I think there's a big difference between bear spray and mace. That bear spray kind of stuck on you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it.
But we got up there, and at first when I got up there, I wish their body cam footage would have came out, because there was a point when I got up there, everybody saying, "What are you doing? We're on your side." And
saying that to the police.
Saying it to the police.
Yeah.
Well, did you have the sense that the police were sort of attacking the crowd?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah.
Because like I said, people were hollering, "What are you doing? We're on your side," as they're spraying people.
Yeah.
And then it just became a rugby match, like pushing back, But most of these people were back to blue advocates, because we already seen what was going on in Antifa. We already see the news and the politicians out there pushing them and aggravating them and feeling like they were supported,
Right.
So we felt the police, especially in Oregon areas and places like that, they were being told they can't use spray, they can't use this, they can't defend themselves, and the rest. I don't know, people that were following it closely on social media, saying, "What are you talking about? Why are you going to leave these police officers defenseless?"
Right.
Yeah.
But it seemed that's how things were working out. People were doing corrupt things, and they were putting the police in front of them to defend them against people like me that were just protesting.
Right. And did you get a sense, too, that you were towards the front of the people, headed towards the tunnel? Was there some push from behind to push people toward the tunnel?
Oh, it was bad. I got stuck in, I was sandwiched in between, and I had my hand on my stomach, and it was so compressed that like a week after we left, I actually had to go to the doctor because I guess my ribs were bruised. That's how much pressure was between us all.
Right. Yeah. It was a big crush of humanity up there. And so, I've always, the stuff that we saw was that there were certain people that were really pretty much agitators, they looked very suspicious. They didn't look like Trump supporters, that were intentionally pushing the crowd into the police and causing that sort of clash there.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And
So
that goes to some of what you pointed out on the documentary of what was happening. So basically, a lot of peaceful protesters in the middle, agitators from the backside, police on the other side, and before you know it, there's agitation going on inside of the people that were just there to peacefully protest.
Right. While you were up there at the front, what was it that led to the idea that you attacked somebody with a flagpole? What was happening at that point?
I guess that's when we were pushing in. Like I said, it was like a rugby match, and I don't know what caused it, but I just wound up, I don't know, getting caught up in it.
Yeah.
I know everybody says that, but it's 100% truth.
Did you feel like you were defending yourself?
I think it was out of frustration that we couldn't believe the police were doing this.
Yeah. And because the police right in front of you were doing what? They were spraying?
Yes, exactly.
And were they hitting with batons? What were they doing?
Well, at that point, they weren't, not when I first got there. But it seemed like it came in waves. As soon as people died down from the screaming and hollering, everybody were just kind of standing there, like, there was, I don't know.
There'd be a little lull and it'd sort of be peaceful for a minute.
Yes, sir. And then the spraying would start all over again. And then the pushing would start again. And that's kind of how it went 2 or 3 times. And that's when people started throwing things, is when after a couple times of the spraying, people were like, enough of this, and people started, I don't know if it was Antifa and agitators, if it was actually a patriot that just got tired of being assaulted. Mm-hmm. When you have women and seniors and you're seeing them getting sprayed, and yes, people were getting hit with batons. And as much as I want to protect the people and protect the police officers, I guess I just got to come out here and say the way it was.
And also, when you get sprayed with that stuff, I mean, it's very painful, right? And
they knew they were going to get a reaction, that's for sure.
Yeah, so you tend to be ready to lash out when somebody hurts you that way.
Yes, right? Sir. Yes, sir. Or like I said, seniors, there had been guys there 60, 70 years old. And like you said, we just wanted to be there and support, to show that, there was enough people that wanted to be heard, we wanted something to happen in that Capitol to where somebody would stand up and challenge the election. There was enough questions there was enough doubt. They say in court, beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, that election wasn't beyond a reasonable doubt, and it should have been questioned. It had the right to be questioned.
And I think it's important that we question our government. I mean, that is part of what we should be doing, to make sure that we hold them accountable, because they are there to represent us. What about the situation with Roseanne Boylan? How did that go down? I mean, there's video out there. We'll put some of that into this podcast, but you were right there. I've seen some of the footage as she is being beat. How did that play into your reaction and what was going on there, and to other people's reaction? Well,
I was just coming back from a break after being sprayed. I actually went back because and when I did, I started going up the stairs, and that's when I seen Roseanne Boylan laying there unconscious as another lady was sitting there. I've come to learn that it was a lady. I didn't know who it was. They were full gear, and all I just seen was somebody wailing on this lady's head. And that's when Colt Maccabee was trying to plead for them to stop. It was a guy named Tate. I was in jail with both of them. And see, when it was going on, you didn't know anybody, but when you're in jail, you can kind of piece it together. And then everybody looking at their footage, everybody was like, "Hey, that's you. No, that's you." But Tate was trying to do CPR on her. I heard Jake Lang was a part of that. I'm not sure what happened there, but they were trying to resuscitate her. I don't know what you can do for somebody that had their head just caved in, and to hear the media and everybody portray it like it was something else. I forget exactly what they said it was.
Well, at first they said she had a Ritalin overdose, which was ridiculous, and then they said she was trampled to death.
Yes, exactly. I heard both.
Yeah.
And they were suppressing that. They obviously didn't want that to be out, but Roseanne's parents, Roseanne herself, deserves to have the truth brought out, because she was just like us. She was just an American who loved the country, and yeah.
Well, it was policewoman Lila Morris is the one that was hitting her with the baton. She's on film. So you saw that, you personally saw her doing that.
Yes, sir. And I think that's when you'll see the footage of me in there hollering and cussing, and that's when I threw the stick and with the wire.
Yeah.
But I didn't go there for that.
No.
It was just a response.
Right.
And I know everybody is on local news. Their local news stations being put in front of a camera to show that, because everybody's against the pardon, so they want to have these people go on camera and either say they're reformed but I'm not going to be that guy. I didn't go over there for that. There was a reason for that. And to be honest, I would go there again. I think I'd be a little bit smarter about it if it came to it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this for a fact. Not everybody's against the pardons.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it may feel that way because of the narrative that the media pushes, but there were a lot of people that were advocating for those pardons. And I really think that the 70-some million people that voted for President Trump, most of them were for that. And the ones that don't understand is part of what we're doing. We want the public educated to know what happened. I don't think anybody is saying on both sides of this issue that there weren't things that shouldn't have been done. I think the point that is being made is that our government facilitated this to happen. They got the response that they wanted from the police, the peaceful protesters, and the people that we now know that the FBI has released a little bit of information that they had people there, planted there, that went into the Capitol in the very beginning. Their people, their feds were there.
Mm-hmm. And I think a point that I always try to make that people forget is that the process that was going on inside the Capitol building at that point was exactly what we wanted to happen. Ted Cruz was standing up and challenging the vote, and they were talking about sending it back to the states for 10 days to make sure to verify the vote. That's what we all wanted. And so the people that wanted to disrupt that process were not the citizens like us that went there. It was the government. The government would have wanted that process to stop. And so what happened? They staged this riot. They make this thing happen. And then everybody clears the House and Senate. Then they come back and go, it's too dangerous to continue to debate. We've got to go ahead and certify the election right now. So that what happened that day served them. It didn't serve us.
Exactly. Yeah. They say that we were performing a coup, but the actual coup was going on inside that building.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, if you what happened at the end of the thing there with Roseanne when they took her body away, and how did the day end for you?
Just shock.
Yeah, and you just sort of went home? I mean...
Well, it's a long story, but December 12th, I went to another rally, and I parked at a parking garage, and I was coming out of the parking garage with another lady, and she snapped a picture of Colonial Park, and I was like, that's a good idea. I'll probably need to do that. So I took a picture of Colonial Park, and I left that rally about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I guess got back to the parking, started walking that way, and I went to go look for Colonial Park and had no idea there was 50 parking garages named Colonial Parking. So I wasn't able to find my car that night. It was a rental. So I went to the airport and stayed there the night, and then woke up the next morning about 6 o'clock and started walking in a grid pattern trying to find this parking garage in my car. And I tried to get a hold of the car rental and see if they could track the car down. They couldn't, so it was a long day of walking. So that day on the 6th, I left about 4:30 because I didn't want to get locked out of the parking garage because it closed pretty early there.
Right.
And so, but once Roseanne Boylan happened, they more of that spray. I just went down, and there was like a concrete, I don't know, a bench on either side of the bottom of the steps. There was a concrete bench on one side and the other. And I sat down, and I looked up, and I seen guys dressed in black smashing stuff, and I just shook my head like, I didn't come here for all this, you know. And so, and I'm on fire. I've been sprayed for an hour and a half. I mean, there's an inch thick of spray. You can stomp around in it. There's puddles everywhere. And so, but when they started shooting gas canisters and things like that, I don't know. It was a long day, and I just wanted to go put something on my face and my chest, and my legs are burning because I'm drenched in it. I didn't go there in battle fatigues. I went there in a pair of jeans, a white button-down shirt, and a pea coat.
Yeah.
So
you weren't dressed for all this.
Yeah. No, sir. No. So, but I left that night, or left about 5:30, and I went to a gas station and got some wet paper towels, and I'm placing them on my face and everything else. And I sit there for about an hour trying to I don't know, just
calm
thinking
down.
what in the world just happened. But I went back to the Capitol because I didn't know how long it was going to last. So I got there, 7:30, back to the Capitol, and to this day, I swear I saw Police Officer Sicknick because I got on one side. You can edit this because I don't know if you want to talk about him or.
Sure. No, go ahead.
But I'd love to know what happened because I got to one side of the Capitol and by this time there's a barricade up around it, but it wasn't nothing big. It was like a bike rack all the way around. And I'm on one side of it and I'm walking around to the other side because one side's real quiet. And I'm walking around just trying to get to the other side where we were, just see if anything was still going on. And off to me, I don't know. It didn't take long to recognize. I walked around the Capitol, and that's a big building. So I was walking for a few minutes with this guy. And there was a point where there was a door open, and some woman, I guess, is running inside, and two police officers are running in after her. And I said, well, what'd you think was going to happen, dummy? You left the door wide open. And then Officer Sicknick started laughing. I say Officer Sicknick. I don't know how else to say it.
But you thought it was
to this day.
Yeah.
But once I saw his picture on the TV 2 days later, I was like, hey, that's that guy I was walking with. Oh. But I'm walking the perimeter of it, and two other MPD officers start walking towards us. And then out of nowhere, whole change of character, he just starts hollering at me to get to the sidewalk now. And I'm like, what? I just walked all this time. I said, I'm just trying to get to the other side. I don't care. Get to the sidewalk now. He just flipped a switch. And after I heard about these cops' suicides, I wonder. I can't help but wonder why did he change character like that, and what really happened with him.
Yeah,
and it's not just about J6'ers and Roseanne Boylan, and it's about those police officers. We were all used that day.
Yeah,
and I know they were. You see local TV in the DC Gulag, and all of them are anti-Trump. Anti-protesters, the local news, even Fox 5 has more Democrats on that show than they do Republicans,
Yeah.
And so the atmosphere and the beliefs of the people there, including the MPD, they did not like us, And I just, if they were trying to get the truth out and something happened to them, that needs to come out.
And I think a lot of people have been willfully blind to the facts around what has happened, just because it's so much easier to just buy the media narrative than to partner with other people and probably spend some of your own money and your time to go around and say what happened to these people, what really took place that day.
Yeah, I mean the narrative that they advanced, that the media advanced, was part of why January 6th happened the way it did, and why you and others like you were treated the way you were treated, because they had to advance this narrative that we were all there to overthrow democracy, which is insane. I mean, if you're going to go overthrow democracy, you don't wear jeans and a pea coat, and none of us were dressed to overthrow democracy. That lie is what they had to advance in order to move their agenda forward.
That's exactly right. Their agenda is that everybody had their different reasons for being there. And that was almost a year of vaccines, forced mandates, mask.
Right.
Everybody got dialed into what Agenda 2030 was and the way they were pushing us. And they're talking about new normals. And now they're about to put in a government that was going to lock us down after Trump already said, I think out of precaution did he lock us down, but it wasn't long until he said, okay, it's time to get back to reality. And this country needs to
move
back
on.
to right.
Yeah.
They were going to financially break this country.
Yeah.
And there was where I was, it's a blue state, Maine. I'm not from there. My roots are from Georgia, but just if Big Pharma owns that state. You can't throw a rock without hitting a medical facility. In the way they push pharmaceuticals, there's a Walgreens, and on the opposite side of the street, CVS. You can't get to the end of a block without hitting one of them. And
well, we know for a fact. I mean, there's so much corruption, and it runs so deep. And I think Trump realized that in his first presidency. Even with a lot of the COVID stuff that took place, I mean, they're the people that were in his ear. You had people advocating for freedom, and you had people that were advocating for dollars. It was about the pharmaceutical industry, you know. So all of that was part of the narrative that played into this. Trump could not be president again. They wanted to make sure that there was no way he would ever be electable. And so January 6th happened. They immediately started, you know, they had the impeachment. They went after him personally and in every way, because the goal was, I think the primary goal of January 6th, for the most part, was Trump can't be president again.
Keep Trump out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and I also believe that it was a big part of dropping the hammer on us to scare the other people in this country from standing up. And I think that's a big
That's
part.
exactly right.
No, yeah. You're dead on with that. So after you left there that day, how much time was between that day and when you actually got arrested? Unless you had another question, Nick, in regard
No, I
to
wanted
that
to
day.
know,
Yeah.
what was it like when you were arrested? How did that go down?
Well, I don't know. It was just weird because I was on Facebook and I was pretty loud. I was one of those ones that, you know, General Flynn called a digital warrior because it was about spreading truth and waking people up. And while Facebook, when I first started, everybody was posting what they had for dinner or lunch and just the silliest stuff, which everything has its place. But there was big things happening in this country, and people need to be aware of it. So I was posting a lot of that. So I guess it was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I actually canceled my Facebook. I was done.
And how long after January 6th is this?
This is about a year and a half.
Year and a half after?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But I canceled my Facebook page about 10:30 at night, and I was arrested not even 8 hours later on my way to work. I was going to get my morning coffee, and I had Border Patrol, City Police, State Police, Highway Patrol. I think I already said Highway Patrol, but they just all blocked me in, and police.
About how many vehicles, just roughly?
I don't know, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
You know, and police officer pulls me out. He says, "You're not going to fight with me, are you?" I was like, "My fight's not with you," you know, and meaning that my fight's with the government, you know, not even with the government so much as just the tyrannical, corruption, exactly,
Corruption.
exactly. Thank you. But
And so they pulled you over and just arrested you on the street right there
yes, sir.
and took you away.
Yes, sir.
And the charges.
There's only like 3 or 4 at that point.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was the going thing is they'd arrest you on a couple charges and then bring you in and give you a couple more.
And so how did they designate you in terms of like bond? Were you able to, you know, make bond and get out, or did they just hold you?
No, they held me. I went
under what grounds? Do you remember why they said they were holding you?
No, sir.
Okay.
But yeah, I went to Maine to New Hampshire to watching the television while I was in jail, and Con Air came on, and the very next morning I'm on one and I'm flying to Oklahoma. And mind you, the only trouble I've ever been is traffic stuff, you know, speeding tickets and things like that.
Never been arrested for anything, really?
Nothing big like this.
Yeah.
No, traffic related stuff.
Yeah.
And then I went to Oklahoma for a week or so. Then I went to Central Virginia, and that's when I met Matthew Kroll, Christian Manley, Hazard. I can't remember his first name. Excuse me. It was like 4 or 5. Sorry. They call him Mago Marlin. Big old boy from Florida.
These were all people that were there January the 6th that were arrested as well.
Yes, sir. Kenneth Bonowitz. We're all arrested or being transported from Central Virginia to D.C., and that was St. Patty's Day of 23. And That was when they were still doing the COVID. Well, let me back up a little bit. Every jail I went to, they were shoving Q-tips up my nose doing the COVID test, and you couldn't refuse them. And it seemed like after every test they gave you, like your eye socket was hurting, just shoving that baby up there. But we all got quarantined in DC, and they test you then. They would send you to a quarantine pod, and me and Bonowitz and Kroll were on that side. And that's when Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of them did their walkthrough, so we can hear what was going on, because the two units were divided just by a metal door. And so I missed them by like a day. But yeah, everything's been pretty surreal.
So, I mean, so many of these people that I've talked to, they said they couldn't make bond because they were designated as potential domestic terrorists, that they were too dangerous to be released. Yeah, in other words.
The dangerous community. Yes, sir.
Is that was that your experience?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so how did it come about that you got the charges on you, and then how did you get an attorney?
One was appointed to me, but I went through a few of them because I kept letting them go. The first one was a BLM activist out of Baltimore.
Yeah.
He sitting down watching the evidence. He comes and has a legal visit with me. We're sitting down watching the body cam footage. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you think would happen with the black community if they saw an unarmed woman beat to death and the black community stood up and reacted to it? And he's like, well, if it would have happened to us, we would have been killed. And he pretty much acted that point forward, acted like whatever happened to me, I deserved. He was saying just off the wall stuff to me. Is there anything I do for you? Yes, you can get a hold of my son and tell me you can have my truck. Well, how's your son going to feel about a black man calling him? It was just a time after time after time of saying just off the wall stuff that I was like, all right, I got to let you go. And then the next one came in, and he comes in, and from all the law shows, Law and Orders, the lawyers are on top of it. They're, talking to the client, and getting the story, but then they're giving advice at the same time. The second lawyer, he wasn't doing any of that. He pretty much wanted me to come up with my own defense, and he was just going through the motions and just saying he went to the jail to have a legal visit. But when we're sitting down, I said, well, did you even look at any of this? He's like, no, I don't have time to look at the evidence, look at 50 videos. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have time to look at 50 videos? There's like 10 videos. And anyways, so I let him go. So it kept going like that. I just kept, the public defender pool is no different than the jury pool.
Yeah, they're all tainted. They're all 95% Democrat.
Yes, sir.
And all these cases went through D.C.
Yes, sir.
You had to have an attorney that was licensed in D.C., right? It had to be a D.C. attorney.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And it was a money-making thing for the lawyers that were getting paid. There were some really good lawyers, so I don't want to hear and say anything bad about it, because a lot of them did have their heart into it, but there was a lot of lawyers that just saw easy money because the good people of America were trying to stand behind us and donating money. And I had one that came in at the tail end of another lawyer, and they know it's been 2 years. They know how I have a daughter, and I want to get back to her. And they kept pressing me about my daughter. The main goal here is, to get back to your daughter. And so after about an hour, because they came and saw me at 11 o'clock at night. I'm already tired. I didn't know if that was a tactic or what, or if that's used often. Maybe that's something that could be looked into. But anyways, this paid lawyer doesn't look at any of my evidence, and she's there with my lawyer that's getting ready to be relieved, and I signed the plea deal. 2 or 3 days go by. I regret even signing it. I felt like I caved, and I didn't want to cave. I wanted them to put the work in. If they're going to hammer me for something, then work for it. I'm not just going to hand you my head on a silver platter. And but she told me that it would only be used against me more. It'd only make the judge mad, this, that, and the other. So I got in the plea deal, and a week and a half later, after I asked her for her to rescind it and she refused to, I just let her go too. And I said, if this is the way it's going to be, then I might as well just say what needs to be said myself, because she's obviously not going to speak for me. And she got like $25,000 for a week and a half's worth of work and sat down 45 minutes with me.
Yeah.
And
now, how was when they came to you with the plea deal, how was it presented to you? If you go to trial, you're going to get this amount of time?
Yes, sir.
What was that like? What did they say?
That if I didn't take the plea deal, I was looking at 63 to 70 something months. And if I took the plea, well, it seemed to be a pattern that all these people were telling me before the plea deal, that if you just say that Trump is the one that incited you to go there, and that if you can just tell the court that that it
blame Trump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I told them that there might be people that would do that, but I'm not one of them. And but. Yeah, they said that I was looking at 60 to 70 something months, and that if I took this plea deal, then that this judge might give me half because and that seemed to be the going thing. Is everybody, when I first got there, was like, well, my lawyer is going to do this and move the needle, and I got a good judge. And for 2 years, all I had time to do was get on this LexisNexis app and it's a legal tablet, and it tells you just type in your judge, and it'll show you all the cases he ever done. That's when I realized mine was a FISA court judge, and he was the one that said it was okay to spy on Trump. He was the one that dismissed Kevin Kleinsmith and said that it was a media hurricane. He's already served his time. And
what was that judge's name?
Judge Boasberg.
Yeah.
So you knew what you were up against.
Yes, sir.
When it came down to it, you knew he wasn't going to in any way give you any type of mercy at all.
Yes, sir. And then they didn't know this, and maybe it's safe to say now because we're out, but I was able to Google him while I was in jail, because our TVs in the TV room were smart TVs, and those COs get Wi-Fi while they're there because they work them around the clock. We got onto Wi-Fi on the smart TVs, and I looked my judge up and kind of looked to see where his roots were. Yeah. And I seen that he's been a Democrat since his father, and they came from Oregon. His father was appointed by Lyndon B. Johnson, and that there's this Marshall Bennett Club, something, it has to do with a bunch of lawyers. It's just a think tank of lawyers. And I just knew what kind of situation I was in, who I was dealing with. I was the same one that said Hillary Clinton had to reveal 15,000 hours of emails when there was 30,000 hours of emails. And so...
Well, one question I had, so many of these people, they talked about their plea deal, and when they took the plea deal, they say they were forced to admit to something that was not true, that they did not do. Was that your case too?
Now, what I'm about to say is going to sound really crazy, but there was a footage, a body cam, and I swear, if there are deep fake videos and things like that, there was one where some guy spraying something, and it shows my arm come up and like adjust it. And that's something I would not do. I'm an introvert. I do my own thing, and I wouldn't get involved like that. But what did happen that there is no footage of is somebody from the crowd handed me a big canister, and I didn't know what exactly it was. I thought it was water. I thought it was coming from the people for the people, and I was going to hand it up because Lord knows that burnt. Excuse my language. And but once I had it in my hand, and I grabbed it with one hand, I transferred it to my other hand to hand up. And when I went to go hand it up, I realized, I looked up, and it was the same canister they were using to spray us with. I said, "Get this out of here. We can't even breathe as it is." And I hand it back. So if there was anything my hand touched that was chemical spray related, it was that. But somehow there's a footage of me. I don't know, but it was just weird and wild. But how can you say that something didn't exist when there's video showing that it is? Yeah. That's why I'm nervous of this deep fake stuff. Technology's gotten so out of hand.
Yeah.
But
no doubt.
So, in other words, you were in your plea deal. You admitted to touching the canister or passing it along, or
I had to. I mean, like I said, how am I going to refute that? You know, there's footage showing me do something like that.
Yeah. But you did, and I guess what I'm getting at is you didn't spray anybody.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
You just touched it.
Yes, I did.
And they call that assault with a deadly weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And some of the things that we've heard, and I think we will see as people have gotten released, we will see some more footage come out from personal devices of people that maybe put those videos away, because a lot of times the police or the FBI were confiscating devices and then videos disappeared.
Yeah.
And so we've heard some of that, but this is something that we were told the other day, and I'm saying this as what I was told. I'm not saying it's what happened, but it appeared as if, and there's supposedly a video of it, that there were actually containers of spray set out around throughout the crowd. Yes. And there's people talking on radios, walking away from those bags of bear spray. And so I don't know all that did happen, and hopefully all the truth does come out. But my point is this, and it coincides exactly with what you're saying. There was fog and spray everywhere, and it is a proven fact, even in our government documents, that this type of spray is an agitator. It is a crowd agitator.
Right.
It has been utilized in other countries when they were, when we were intervening in governments and things of that nature. So we know for a fact that it was agitating. Everybody was agitated that was getting hit with the spray, and officers were accidentally hitting their own people. They were accidentally spraying other officers, and some of those officers thought it was coming from the crowd. So it was chaos beyond chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think I think there's no question that was intentional. That is not a legal procedure for the police to do. They're not allowed to just spray, pepper spray all over a huge crowd of people like that. That's against procedure.
So there definitely should have been some rules of engagement there, not just open up on the public just because they're standing there hollering.
And I think there was also, from what I'm hearing, speaking with an attorney the other day, is there were some jurisdiction issues as well between Capitol Police and DC Police.
Metro
so there
Police,
were people that were engaging in places they didn't have jurisdiction for some reason. And again, I think everybody sitting here in this room backs the blue. We support the police. We would do anything to back them and support them. And so it's not that we're pointing fingers. We want to get to the truth, number one, and then understand exactly what you said a little bit ago. There were a lot of people that got used that day. Antifa, police officers, peaceful protesters. I was talking to somebody the other day, and Nick, you and I have had this conversation, but a good pastor, that a friend of mine that I know, he was there and was there with several other churches. They went to hear Trump, and they were caught up in the crowd walking away, and 70, 72, 75-year-old men had worked their whole life, deacons, men that were part of their churches, had never had speeding tickets, some of them. Literally, this is what the man told me. Right. And they're forced up against these barricades, and here their wife is with them, 70, 72, 68 years old, and they're being pushed and forced, and they're getting hit with batons. And these men who are salt of the earth men were responding to that. Yeah. And who wouldn't? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the piece and the part of this that a lot of people who, the nuts on X and everything else that are calling all this stuff out, they have no clue. They're either willfully ignorant or they're part of the lie.
Well, and I think a lot of what goes on is that, my experience of trying to get the truth out with these documentaries, people don't want to believe that their government is capable of doing this. They don't want to believe that people can be that evil. But it's happened. I mean, that's what's happened here. And that is why it was so important for Donald Trump to pardon everybody, because I'd been saying from the beginning, I don't really care what anybody did that day, because everybody's constitutional rights were violated by what happened that day, by the way they were treated in the court system, by the way they were selectively prosecuted when the BLM activists did worse and nothing happened to them. Everybody that was there that day, I don't care what they did.
Exactly right.
Their constitutional rights were violated, and that needs to be corrected.
That's the problem.
That's what Trump did.
That is a problem, and he did it on day one, like he said that he was going to do. Yeah. And I've made this statement to some people that there was all types of demographics there, right? Rich people, poor people, church people, atheists. There were antagonists, police officers, older men and women, younger men and women, like every type of demographic there, which meant that you had good people there and not so good people there. Mm-hmm. There were people there that had criminal records, people there that were already had charges from other things related to their state that they've got to go pay for now that they're released from this. Yeah. There were all types of people there. My point with saying that is that life in and of itself is hard. Like, people have problems. There were people there that had addictions. You name it. All types of people were there. Life is hard enough without the government putting its knee on our neck and forcing people into prison to create a narrative to keep one man from being the president of this country. That's right. And we know it's even bigger than that. But my point is, the media's coming out, well, he pardoned this person and they did this in their past life and they had this in their past. So what? Yeah. That still doesn't give the government a right to overstep somebody's constitutional rights. Yeah. And so that's why I believe that President Trump did the right thing. Mm-hmm. There was no way to sort through it because the judicial system is so corrupt, especially in D.C. It's so corrupt. There was no way he was going to be able to look and say, oh, well, this guy, he got charged with assaulting a police officer, so I can't let him go. Right. When he doesn't know that the assault on the police officer was made up, or the assault on the police officer he pled to that to be able to keep from going to prison the rest of his life, mm-hmm. or the assault on the police officer was a man watching a woman get beat to death with a baton and pitching a piece of a stick and it bouncing off a wall and hitting a helmet of a police officer, and they're calling that the assault. Mm-hmm. There was no way to sort through that. Right. Am I crazy at looking at it that way?
No, absolutely not. No. And there's no way that 1,600 people were guilty of these kinds of violent offenses. And so I've heard people say, do you think President Trump will be responsible if there's any, violence stemming from him releasing these violent insurrectionists? And it's like, if anybody is if something like that did happen, the people responsible are Merrick Garland and Matthew Graves and the people who overcharged everybody that day. If they had gone around selectively and only done the 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever, however many people actually did something that was actually wrong, then we wouldn't be in this situation. That's right. But they charged everybody they could, overcharged everybody, lied about what they did, and this is what they get.
And if the government didn't lie, and if they did their due diligence, and everybody was prosecuted correctly, then why in the world did the J6 committee all get pardoned?
Yeah. And destroy all the evidence.
Destroy the evidence. Yeah. The reason they got pardoned is because they destroyed evidence, because they knew the evidence that they had would show that the government incited what happened, and ultimately it's at their feet.
I got a question because I have no idea. But if they weren't charged, how are they getting pardoned? What are they getting pardoned for if they don't have a charge? And if they did get a pardon, are they excused from future charges?
From what everybody says, yeah, they are excused from future charges. The good thing is this: is they're not now. They can't plead the fifth, and so they actually can be called in to testify. But this is what the narrative I think they wanted to set up is that if Congress now goes and starts investigating these people, then they can incite the narrative that it's such a waste of taxpayers' money because if you go down that rabbit hole, you can never charge them. Therefore, it's just a waste of time, and let's move on.
The truth is,
some of these people need to pay.
Yes, sir.
They need to pay.
But that's just it. Who pays? Do you sue the government and the American people pay?
Right. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping is that there is a way to sue these individuals. Yeah, sue these people like Liz Cheney, people like Kinzinger, Matthew Graves. These people need to be sued individually for the crimes that they've committed against American citizens.
Well, this is the thing that I think a lot of the public doesn't understand. There are people that walked into areas that had barricades up that were taken down by the Capitol Police, that were in restricted areas, that didn't know they were in restricted areas, that lost their house, their car, their job, and 3 and 4 years of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot put a price tag on that. You cannot equate that to a dollar figure. We have people that lost their wives, lost their family, lost their truck, lost every possession that they had. And, one particular person that Nick was able to help the other day, this individual, he actually was in appeal for his case, and he won his appeal a couple weeks before the pardon. They didn't even bother to tell him.
Yeah, they left him in jail. He was totally exonerated after serving 4 years, and they just left him there.
Absolutely amazing.
And so now the government says, oh, yeah, well, you actually didn't do what we accused you of doing. We just took 4 years from your life and everything that you had, go on.
Sorry
about it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. There has to be accountability, and there has to be a way to make these people as whole as we possibly can. And I don't even know what that looks like or, what type of partnership that is between state and federal. If there's a way to look at some of these people that were instigators of this and behind this. I mean, I think Nancy Pelosi's pretty wealthy, so I would be fine with, her being able to give up some money to help some of you guys be able to move on with your life. But some of it, money's never going to replace time that people lost with family over a 3-minute walk through the Capitol when the police escorted them in. Yeah. And there were other things that happened. I'm not disregarding that. We've talked through that, but I think it's important for people to understand there's more to this story than what the media has been telling you. Yeah. Look into it and find out. How can they find your documentaries, Nick?
The documentaries are now up on X. If you just go to my page, Yes, Nick Searcy, it's pinned at the top. It's a 4-part miniseries called The War on Truth. It tells some of the stories about what's been happening. And the movie Capital Punishment, which is the first one we made, it's on Rumble for free. If you just do Capital Punishment Nick Searcy, it'll come up.
And I think as we stand right now, as we're recording this, I think there's 12 people that were associated with January the 6th that are still incarcerated. And a couple of them are going back to their prospective state because they were serving time in their state for state charges that were not related to January the 6th. And then there are several people that have charges that were related to January the 6th. They have proof that they were made up, and some are things that were just as a part of the raid that happened on their home. And so there's a lot of people that are advocating still, trying to make sure that these guys get exonerated in every way that they should be. And our government's playing games with a few of them. There's no doubt. There's a few of them that actually they're trying to get to sign a non-disclosure because of what happened to them while they were in the D.C. facility. And it's just sickening.
Yeah.
So,
just before we go, I mean, Chris, if you could sum it up, I mean, what has all this cost you? What have you learned from all this, and what has been the cost for you personally?
Time away from my kids. I don't know.
I mean, was there?
There's a lot I want to say, but
I guess what I'm getting at is, did the government teach you a lesson? I mean, were you supposed to learn something from having been treated this way?
Well, that's what they said in court when they were handing down my sentencing. Is they need to go a little hard on me for a deterrent, but they don't understand that you're not going to deter me for standing up for my country or standing up for my children and knowing that I will never let them put the fear in the people the way they did. And if it came down to it, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I'd be there again. I'd just be a little smarter about it.
Well, God bless you, Chris. I'm sorry for what you've been through. I really am. It's a travesty. It's something that should never have happened. This government should never have gone after people this way. And hopefully now that you're out and now that this is behind you, hopefully there's going to be some restitution for you and others like you.
I just want to say thank you. And I want to thank Josh that getting to know you guys, to know how much heart you put into this. If it wasn't for you guys out there fighting, the truth wouldn't get out, and you guys put your own neck out there for us, and getting to know you, I know it's coming from your heart. I've had enough talks with you, and I never would have thought I'd be able to meet somebody like you guys. So it's been an honor and a pleasure, and it's an experience I will never forget.
It's been an honor to meet you, for sure, and we're glad we got to know you. And I've said this, I'll say two things in closing. One is, without January 6th, we probably don't have November the 5th of this year with President Trump winning the popular vote and the electoral vote.
Yeah.
So what little bit, that you can wrap your mind around of what good could have come from these last 2 years of being incarcerated and all that you've been through, because you guys did stand up and because of what happened to you all, it did wake a lot of people up. And I believe that's one of the primary reasons that President Trump is elected. And the second thing is what you alluded to. It is that it's been said by our founders, and it's fact. When the people fear the government, it's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. And I think we've got to reverse that again with accountability. We have to hold our government accountable. And thankfully, we've seen some good people get elected through all this, and President Trump's helped some good people get elected, and we can't give up the fight. And so we're glad to see you out. We're glad to see you back in the fight and willing to put your face and your voice out there and let people know what happened to you. But we got to make sure in this country that it never happens again.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Thank you, Chris. God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks.